Gotta stay hydrated. That Fiji hits different. This is gonna be a long one, so strap in. Pause. Shout out to Cameron. Not trying to steal your stuff. Back in 1989, a young Rob was watching the NFL draft because I thought I was a young Mel Kiper back then. And I saw my favorite college football player, Deion Primetime Sanders, get drafted by the Atlanta Falcons. And I thought when they were interviewing him about being drafted by the Falcons that he said the coldest line that my little teenage ears had ever heard.
Pack him in there.
When Detroit took the other Sanders, I saw a big grin come across your face.
Man, I was so happy I was kind of scared. I thought Detroit was going to take me. I would have asked for so much money that I had to put me on layaway.
On layaway, huh? No baseball's leverage there, huh?
No.
For you young people out there, I don't even know if they still have layaway. But back in the day, you used to be able to go to a big box store like a Walmart, for example. And if you wanted to buy a TV, let's say, that was $1,000, you could put the TV in layaway, put $100 on it, and then pay you had 90 days to pay for it before they put it back out in the store. It was a very interesting concept. I don't even know if they have it right now, but I digress. I thought that was the coldest line really of all time. The reason why is that, first off, he's sitting in the house. He has the jewelry on. He has the shades on. Mama, daddy there. Everybody's looking good. It just exuded Black excellence. It exuded confidence. It exuded this is what I want to be when I grow up. And I know a lot of young Black, especially Black men and Black women, during those times, the late 80s and the early 90s is such a peak for Black creativity. You have hip hop blowing up everywhere. You have the Jordan era of sports. You have the Cowboys, the 90s Cowboys, the 90s 49ers dynasties that are going on during that time. It was just peak everything. You had Biggie, you had Pac, you had Jay-Z, you had Nas, you had Wu-Tang Clan, you had NWA, you had Ice Cube, you had all of this, Dr. Dre, Snoop, all of this stuff, Death Row, Bad Boy, all of this stuff was happening in the early 90s, and it just made you feel fly. And there was no one flyer out there than Deion Sanders. And you have to remember, this is before the internet. This is pre-internet. This is pre-Al Gore's internet. This is before social media. And, as I got older, there's several documentaries about Deion Sanders that you can watch, and they're all pretty good. But the centralized theme for what Deion talks about is that he felt to maximize his potential, his earning potential, he had to become a character. And, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or, I'm not trying to get into your mind with all of this stuff, but it made me think about Black, especially athletes, but Black people in general, is that we don't get celebrated oftentimes for just being ourselves. And you see this a lot in, say, sports. Let's take boxing, for example, right? Manny Pacquiao can be a pound-for-pound king, make millions of dollars just being Manny Pacquiao. Same thing for Canelo or Roberto Duran or Oscar De La Hoya. They just can be who they are. For the Black boxers, to maximize their potential, they have to become a character. There was Floyd Mayweather, was Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather. I would say the peak Floyd Mayweather as a boxer was not the Mayweather that made all of the money after. Money Mayweather was a self-promoter. It was a character. It was something that was created to increase his earning potential. And sometimes it's done even when we don't want it to be done. For example, Terrence Crawford has been on many people's number one pound for pound list for years. For years. And his own promoter came out, Bob Arum, and said, I've lost so much money on Terrence Crawford that I could build a house from scratch in Beverly Hills. His own promoter, Bob Arum, with Terrence Crawford standing right there next to him after putting his life on the line because you don't play boxing, said that I've lost so much money on Terrence Crawford. So if he wants to go do other things, then he needs to do it. And then when he fights Errol Spence, all of a sudden people say, hey, this guy's, really good. Why hasn't he been marketed better before? Why hasn't he been the face of boxing before? It's because he never created the quote unquote character. He just was Bud Crawford. He didn't have any crazy arrests or fights or talking crazy or accidents or, he's not Adrian Broner. He's just a good fighter. And that should be enough. Being a good football player, being a good basketball player should just be enough. Jokic, best basketball player in the world. That's fine. Just being himself. Unfortunately, Black people over the years, over the centuries, have felt like we had to be performing artists in real life. That we just couldn't be ourselves. We had to put on different faces depending on what the situation was. And those faces a lot of times determine what our upward mobility would be. It's quite a burden for anyone to have to put on a different mask just to live and exist. Which brings us back to Deion Sanders. You have Deion and you have prime time. You have Deion and you have prime time. Now, the interesting thing about this is that Deion himself admits to the duplicity of it all. He's also admit that prime has almost killed him in the past. Not Deion, but prime. But prime is also the one that makes the money. He's the business. You can't kill prime because prime is what gets Fox to come to Colorado. Now, what's interesting as well is that confidence, a lot of times in Black men, is seen as arrogance. You're going back as far as, say Muhammad Ali. A confident Black man makes people uncomfortable. Why? Because of the box that they like to put us in. When we reach certain levels of society, there's supposed to be some sort of humbleness to Black people that we were, quote unquote, allowed to reach that level of success. That's not something that happens for other races. Nick Saban can be mean to reporters. Chip could be, can be mean to reporters. A lot of coaches could go in the transfer portal and pull players. No one was upset that the coach from USC left Oklahoma, took the best player from Oklahoma, bought him to USC, went in the transfer portal, got 100 other players, and made them national championship contenders in 1 year. He's called a genius. But it's a problem when a Black coach does. It's the confidence that is called arrogance. We've seen it throughout sports. We've seen Terrell Owens. He's never been in trouble with the law. Just been outspoken, honest, himself. Himself is flawed, which is fine. Everybody's flawed. Every player is flawed. But because he didn't fit into the box, it kept that man out of the Hall of Fame for 2 years, who should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer, all because he didn't fit into their box. And what I saw something from Bomani Jones, where he spoke about how he's had criticisms of Deion Sanders. And I think it's fair to say that Deion doesn't always say the right thing. Deion doesn't always do the right thing. There are a lot of people that will tell you that Deion Sanders is a POS, that know him personally. And that's fine. But Bomani said something which I thought made a lot of sense. Even if all of that is true, I'm never going to hate or pray for a Black person's downfall. And that is what's scary to me, is that when it comes to Black excellence and Black success, oftentimes, on top of the people that we know why they don't want it to happen, we often root for our own demise. Why would we do that? Donald Trump can be indicted on 47,000 charges and the next day get $5 million from his people. You know why? It's because they see the bigger picture. Now, the bigger picture is wanting the world to be like it was in 1955, but the bigger picture to them is, we don't care what he's done in his past, in his present, or his future. What we know is that we don't want Black people to excel. So we will do whatever it takes. We will turn our head, we will close our eyes, we will bury our head in the sand. But we'd rather have a convicted felon, Donald Trump, than another Barack Obama. They say that you should never meet your heroes. And I can attest to that. As someone that was a fan of sports and entertainment throughout my younger years and then getting into that business, you meet people and they're not quite the same as what you held them up on that pedestal. And I've met Deion Sanders before, and I've had good interactions with Deion, and I've had bad interactions with Deion. But one thing that I will never do, and even though it's been done to me, is that you should never, ever, 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 ever hope that a Black man fails when he's helping other Black people. Deion Sanders is a monorail salesman. Don't get me wrong. He's a preacher. He's some would say, a con artist. But here's the thing. Are you really a bad salesman if it works? He's a monorail salesman, but the monorail actually works. He's an intelligent brother who knows what his strengths and weaknesses are. His strengths are motivation. His strengths are getting people to believe. That's why he hangs out with people like Creflo Dollar. He's a preacher. He's a salesman, but he's smart. He's brought in coaches that were head coaches before. He's brought in NFL players. He has his son working out with Tom Brady. This is an intelligent man that knows what he's doing. And like I said, is it a con if it actually succeeds? It makes certain media people uncomfortable. Media is very much, they feel like they can say whatever they want, but don't feel like they can be challenged. Anytime a Black man challenges a white man in any type of setting, the white man is going to feel a certain type of way. It's emasculating to them, and they don't like that. Now, Deion, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. You don't need it, but I'm just going to give you a piece of advice. You know this game. You've been in it since the mid-'80s. You know, they build you up to tear you down. They build you up to tear you down. And they're building you up. But the people that want to tear you down, they're right around. They're swarming. They're hovering. They're like jaws. You don't have to act. You know, a lot of times, one of the conversations that I have with my comic book friends is which one is the disguise for Superman? Is Superman the disguise for Clark Kent, or is Clark Kent the secret identity for Superman? And the reason that we have this argument is because Clark Kent is from Smallville. He's an alien, right? But he grew up just as a normal person. Superman is just something that he can do. Which one is your real mask? And at what point, when you have all of these characters inside of you, who is the dominant one? Who's the one that you want the people that love you and care about you? Which is the one that you want them to succeed? Which, or the one that you want them to see, that really sees you? Because we all are a little different when we need to be. And what you're seeing now is you're seeing prime. And I think you have to be prime because that's what these kids relate to. They relate to prime time. They relate to high stepping. But then if you really listen sometimes to what Deion has to say, some Deion seeps into that. You know, we're going to beat the brakes off of them. We're going to do it with class. You know, that's the elder Deion that's coming into it. It's a dynamic that is much deeper than what this video would go. And if you're out here struggling with what face you have to put on to succeed, or what face that you feel that you want people to see, just understand, in the end, the face in the mirror is the only one that matters.